Hello, and welcome back to the Ask the Color Expert podcast. Today's special guest is Alicia Soulier. She is the founder of Salon Scale. As a former salon owner, she saw the need for a measurement system to prevent a lot of hair color waste, and boy, are we glad she did. It is a genius idea. I am so excited to talk to her about how she came up with this idea, and so grateful to have her here on the podcast. So welcome, Alicia. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So if you're listening in your car, you can't see how gorgeous this woman is. She is absolutely stunning. Hopefully you'll go over to YouTube and check out the video as well. We had a chat a few weeks ago and I shared a video with my husband. He's like, wow, she's really pretty. And then I sent it to my daughter. She's like, I love her. She's so pretty. So it's not going to come through on the podcast, unfortunately, but you are so beautiful. And your personality makes you even more beautiful. I hate to make it all about looks, but you are stunning both inside and out. And God, what a gift for the industry that you have come up with. I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I had over, the ongoing battle of waste, where the old remedy was get a bucket and make your staff dump all the wasted color into the bucket. And you have this big, disgusting, sludgy bucket full of, all kinds of a mess. And the staff doesn't care about the messy bucket. And if they're honest, they probably only dump 50% of what they wasted in there because they don't want you to really know what they were wasting. So I'm a big fan of Shark Tank, as is my whole family. We're all always talking about ideas and inventions and wouldn't it be great kind of things, but you didn't just talk about it, you did it. So I would love to hear about your transition from salon owner, which I know is super stressful because I was a salon owner for 36 years. So you don't need to tell me anything about that, but from going from that to this and how it all began.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your kind words. I'm very excited to connect with you and your audience and talk about really, sometimes these things land in front of you and you have to take action. And that's exactly where my story came from. I was just like every other salon owner, just like yourself, that really struggled with how to figure out how to control the back bar. It was this kind of situation where I didn't really know why we were losing money or where that money was going. But all I knew is that by the time I paid my bills, I paid my staff, and I had to do another order, I was constantly the one like going back and be like, oh, wait, can you take a few of these off? Can you do this? Can you move this around? Because they couldn't really charge my card because it was always maxed out. Right. And it was just a feeling that on the outside, my staff knew we were running a $1.2 million salon. Everybody else coming to my salon, like we were charging a lot per services. And everybody thought that I was a lot more successful than what I was. And unfortunately, because I wasn't a financial expert, I had a really hard time understanding where the loss was. And so honestly, this was like, I can only say it as a calling. I think sometimes you get these moments, and this is what happened, where I was renovating the salon and we went and got frozen yogurt, my family, and the frozen yogurt place charged us by how much we put in each bowl. And it made me think, oh my gosh, it's just like we need an update in technology, like these two places. When we were getting paint out of a machine, it's like if we had a machine that told us the cost, and I was like, no, wait a minute, like that won't scale. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the scale. And it just kind of clicked because it's like kind of sometimes these things are right in front of us. And as entrepreneurs, I think we just want to see a world more efficient. And that's kind of what happened. It all collapsed in me in that moment. And I thought, and at this time, I still had no idea how I was going to like really change my pricing strategy with the tool. I just knew that, oh my goodness, what if we had an app that really could, just tell me in real time how much the cost of a bowl was. And that happened 4 years ago. So where did I start? I was a hair salon owner. So I'm obviously not a coder. I don't know how to make technology. So I just Googled, how to make apps, local app company. And I found a local company that made our first MVP. We went in there for several months, talked about the concept of what I would love it to look like. And I am telling you, the moment that I went there to see the MVP, which is a minimum viable product, that's what that means. when we put pens on the scale for the first time and it told me what that cost was in Olaplex, I broke down. That was the day that I was like, oh my gosh, I can go save the industry. Like I can save salons. It was like an overwhelming feeling that I was like, I'm sitting here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and I have a tool that can save every salon around the world. So I jumped, I went as fast as I could, and it hasn't been easy. Like I've had to learn a lot of things to not only build out the technology, the teams, to raising capital, to understanding those things. But what I've seen is we really have built a tool that exposes the costs, and it's allowing salons to really separate those, those variable parts of their pricing and make sure that they are turning a profit every time they do color services. But there's so much more to the product that we can kind of get into a little bit probably later. But I think really that's kind of my story on like how I got it to market. The only thing I would add to this is I joined a local accelerator as the only female non-technical female leader in the salon space, and I won the whole cohort. And that's what kind of propelled me into being full-time and letting the salon go. That's when I decided it's time to sell the salon and pursue this full-time.
That's amazing. Congratulations. Because so many people that are, I've known for years, they always have a story about the one that got away. Oh, I had an idea for XYZ and then someone else did it. Or, there's so many people that have that light bulb moment of something that could really be a game changer, but the overwhelm of, to your point, the funding, the who do you go to create an app? How does that even work? Keeps most people from taking that extra step. Actually, I've sat next to a guy on the plane. I just went home and visited my mom, and this guy next to me, you could just tell he wanted to talk. He was in the middle seat and he was a big guy. He was like jammed in there, and just his body language. I was like, he wants to talk. So we started talking, and somehow we got on the subject of inventions, and he had his own business. He said, I have an idea, but I just don't know how to get it to the actual making of the product. And then we ended up, the flight went so fast because I was telling him different things that I would do if I had a product. And my son went to school for entrepreneurship. He's always looking for that thing that's going to be his winner. And, we know about the woman that designed the little decorations for Crocs. Like, think about how successful she is and how she just walked away and got millions and millions of dollars for little ladybugs to put in the holes of Crocs. Like, sometimes it's the simplest thing that you're like, oh my gosh, seriously? That was the thing. And Spanx. I mean, look at her success. She's a billionaire on basically girdles for women. And they had been around for a million years before, but she did it in a more modern way. So I just love that you didn't let any of those hurdles stop you from doing it, because I just did a talk on my weekly coffee chats about emotional pricing. And this really changes the game. I'm sure that was not even your intention in creating this, even thinking that far ahead, but all of the ramifications down the road that you've been able to solve, even though you didn't start out with all of those ideas, it's such a time saver, money saver, emotional pricing saver. There's so many benefits to weighing, measuring, and having financial facts, because you're not the only salon owner that wasn't making a profit. I think the industry average is like 7%. So when you hear people doing $1 million a year, you think they're going to have the cool sports car and the vacations and the Chanel glasses and the handbags, and they're broke. They're not even paying themselves because of all the color waste.
Exactly. No, I think you make a good point there. And I think I had no clue, but the best part is it's when I keep building more products and we keep talking about that, I know the pain. I know what it feels like to really struggle. And you have almost like this big belief box as a salon owner. You have the biggest belief that you keep passing on to your stylists, to your communities, to like your brand, like you believe, like we have the biggest belief box, but what we don't necessarily have is the facts to really back up those belief systems. And so when we did launch Salon Scale and I put it in my salon for the first time, I was like, holy crap. Like, I now had facts to cut through the motions. I had something that I could tangibly look at that didn't make me have that awkward, hey guys, like we need to raise the prices or we need to change this, because it was like something tangible instantly that was like, an ability for us to see the actual cost, see those things that didn't make it so awkward. And to have these workarounds and these like kind of tiptoeing situations. It was a way for us to really build awareness to those true things. And so out of anything, I will have to say that that is my favorite part about Salon Scales. Yes, we're a technology. Yes, we're a tool. But we handle that overwhelming emotional state of a salon owner and like help take that away and at least give them one aspect to help them so that they don't feel always alone when it comes to their finances.
Another thing that you've done differently and well is provide for the solo suite owner. About 15 years ago, I had the pleasure of going to an intercoiffure event, and I was so excited to be there because it's like the elite group of hairstylists and, you know, the US, and then there's a intercoiffure international as well. And there was a scale back then that was from another company that was the first on the market. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't care how much it costs. I'm getting this thing. This is amazing. This is a dream come true. I've been waiting for this my whole career. And I walked over to the gentleman who was demonstrating and I asked him 3 different questions about the usage of the scale and what things that it did. And all 3 things it did not do. You have created something that does all those things that I wanted 15 years ago. So again, kudos to you because you could have said, oh my gosh, there's a company that already does that. I can't do that. You not only did it, but you did it better. And you made it where there's no barrier of entry. If someone says, you know, oh, I'm just a one person salon. I'm like, yes, you're not going to steal from yourself. Yes, you're going to try not to waste, but do you really know what each service is costing you? I bet you don't. So you're still underpricing and over delivering and over giving product because you're not measuring. So I don't know a hairstylist on the planet that does not need this product to be really efficient and profitable.
Oh, and you know what? It comes down to the word transparency. We just need to have transparent conversations about what it costs us to do our business. And some of these older archaic systems are the reason why we have such fragmentation in the market. That's why we have a lot of solopreneurs. We have about 75% of the market is independent. And then we have salons that are changing their models and trying ways to be more transparent and more clear about these things. And these older, really structured, systematic approaches that were basically killing the culture of your business and not turning any profits anyways. Those systems are failing us. And so if we build technology around that old archaic system, it will always fail. So when we went to market, we said, if this product doesn't fit a stylist first, besides them being a solopreneur, besides them being a salon, where do we all start? We start as being stylists. If a stylist is not excited about using technology or this product or seeing value in it, nobody's going to win. And so when we build the product, we think about how do we make sure that it's really quick to enter products? How do we make sure that it's joyful to come to? We even down to the colors and the tones and the textures we put in there is what do we want people to feel when they come into this tool every day? And then from there, it's just making sure that everyone sees the transparency, everyone gets connected so that everybody wins. And there is no one size fits all. I truly believe that we are a tool that enables any type of owner, any type of stylist. And so exactly what you're saying is, I think being really narrow or giving people rigid rules is not necessarily it. We took Salon Scale to market as fast as we could. And we're like, let's build this with our customers. What do you want to see? And now our entire product roadmap is based out of our customers. Our customers, what they ask for, we start to make those into new features. And so it's kind of one of those things that's really important to kind of have that. But we refuse to label a salon owner as someone who just has a staff. Someone who's taking control of operations is a salon owner. So if you have an inventory, if you are running supplies in and out, you're paying for the operations, overhead, rent, all that stuff. You're owning that operations, which means you're a salon in a salon, you're a salon owner. So that could be a person of 1, that could be a person of 3, that could be a person of 300 locations. But that's basically what we focus on when we think of our product.
So for someone listening that has no idea what this product is or how it functions, what would you say is the top 3 things that changes the game behind the chair from using it? and how much of a hurdle is it to get to know the technology? Because depending on, you know, the age bracket of the stylist, a lot of people, I just had somebody on one of my hot seats, and she still uses a paper appointment book. So for the hairdresser who fights technology, what would you say is different about your product that would be ease of use and worth the hurdle of getting used to it?
So I think the first thing is it's always starts with you. So no matter where you're at, if you aren't fully bought into the concept or fully bought into there's going to be some change, then it's going to be hard to bring on this change. So the first thing I always say to anybody, and like, it's really important to focus on the outcome. What is the outcome I'm going to get by bringing in this device or bringing this tool in? What is the outcome in my business by bringing on this new color line, this new the outcome is X, right? So we want to think about that. So the big thing I would say is, what is the outcome? So the very first thing that you're going to probably find the outcome or what you want is probably money. It's probably cash flow. You're probably wondering why you don't make as much money as you should, where it's going. So if the outcome is to make more money, then that's what we want to focus on. So if we start to do our setup or we go through our setup guides, we know by taking an hour to put in your inventory, is the outcome is going to be that you're going to manage that and you're going to be able to make more money. So you want to be really focused on that. The best part about it is our startup is very simple. It's self-guiding. So you do not need hand-holding on this at all. We have a startup guide that takes, like I said, less than a few minutes to kind of go through. But if you want to go and put all your inventory, it's very simple to kind of go ahead and put that in there. Once your inventory is in place, our technology is extremely easy. You just need to start using it. So you go ahead, add your clients in, you go ahead and pick your products, you measure them out, you get the cost, and then you're passing that cost on to the consumer if you are doing a parts and labor separation. But this ensures that every time your guest leaves, you are turning a profit. And so it can feel overwhelming to adopt the technology, but we have a team of specialists that's here. We also have thousands. Like I am talking, we are approaching 10,000 daily active users. So you are not
Amazing.
alone. Go ahead and ask anyone. And so that the proof is in our product and the proof is in our customers. Everybody that uses us, they will always say that I was so nervous to get started, so overwhelmed. I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have to change all this thing. But every single one of them that took that jump is like, I now am getting, you know, $3,000 more a month, $500 more a week. You know, one salon that did $300,000, they had 2 locations, $300,000 they got back into their business. It
Wow.
starts when you start, and you just got to focus on that and realize it's a simple technology. It's not overwhelming. It's just about getting started.
Wow, that is really impressive. That's a big difference. I know for us, when we started using a scale like that, it was the inventory management. We needed so much less color every month because there was so much waste and because there was so much haphazard mixing and of this and this and making this, and to know what we really truly needed and not have so much backstock was huge right away. And because it passes the cost of the color usage onto the client, our tickets became like weird numbers. You know, instead of $68, it was like $72.36, and the clients were kind of like, what? And we said, oh, we have a new measuring system and we know how much color we use, so we want to make sure. And we always spend it where they were at an advantage. We'd say, we don't want you to pay more for your hair than someone who has a lot more hair than you, so we go by the measurement, and that's why it's a weird number. And they loved it. You know, they loved that it was a weird number that stood out to them because they noticed. Otherwise, they just think a touch-up's a touch-up. When I teach, I share a math equation that I learned probably 20 years ago from another educator. And he was saying most salon owners become salon owners because they're really busy hairdressers and they want to be independent and they just don't want to be told what to do. So they go on their own, and they usually either take the prices that they had at the former salon, or they call a couple of salons around them and they kind of meet in the middle and just make up a price. They don't sit down and say, how much were the gloves? How much was the cotton? How much was the shampoo? How much is my overhead? So this math equation basically bases it on your cost of your color times 11. And when I share that with people, there's only maybe 2 hands that go up that people are at the right number. So I can only imagine how many lives you're changing on the pricing of their color when they're realizing that, oh my gosh, some people are still in 2023 charging $50 for a retouch when the color itself is $11. And then if you're paying a stylist commission, there is no profit for the salon whatsoever, but they're doing it every day, not realizing, to your point earlier, like, where's the money going? I see $1 million coming in, but I'm not keeping, any salary at all because it's all going to overhead and expenses.
Oh, and that's the other thing too, is what happens is I get people that say this all the time where like they're so comfortable, they don't want to have these odd numbers, so they don't want to pass it on to the consumer. And it's a professional good, Alicia. I shouldn't, like, that's so weird to charge it separate. And so what happens is they're like, well, I have these fees within the price. So I know I use like $25 here, $10 here. And the problem is like, yeah, it might have been $11 for that root touch up. It might have been $11, but that product needed to be replenished next month. So when you did an order, whatever you profited that week, and when you went and ordered next, you took the cash flow of whatever profit to replace that $11. So for every time you take a tube, you need to make enough money to replace the tube. So it needs to have markup, it needs to have a margin, it needs to have enough to be able to replenish. And that's what sometimes people don't realize. When you're pricing a $100 service and you use $10 worth of product, you actually need to be pricing it at 120, like 110. You had to cover the replenishment, or else the whatever you made. So let's say you charged $100, you use $10 for product, you have $90. But the next time you order, you're now down to 80 because you had to replenish it. And sometimes people forget about replenish margins, but we don't do this in retail. So we shouldn't be doing it in the back of house. We need to think about that. And the other one too is, you're absolutely right. I love that thing where it's like, we are fantastic artists that usually drive some incredible businesses. And usually we don't, we leave, we go on our own, we take those pricing because we know that. But one thing that, if there's anything that anyone's listening to on this, is we should really be looking at margin and understanding your margin and your cash flow. And so what happens is we are in a very tight marginal business. We don't have high gross margins. So if we sell $100 service, chances are we're only making between really 10 to 20% off of that service. Even if I'm a solopreneur, I'm not making that much because my operations, everything's expenses. So 10 to 20% margins. That means when your customer comes in and you use an extra scoop, or you use a little bit extra shampoo or whatever, you don't have room in that 10 or 20% to, take on that extra hit, that extra cost. So that's why it's really important on those variable expenses to watch that. And so I just say this because think about it, is like, how many times do you emotionally have a client come in and they're like, oh, I'll just throw that toner on, I should have charged for that, but I let it go. So that extra $10, now you have to replenish it, turned into like $20 gone. And you only really made $20 off that service. So you just totally did a free color that day. And so that's why it's really important to separate that emotion and look at that. It'd be completely different if it was a haircut, right? So if you charge $100 for a haircut and your overhead was only 50%, you have $50 to work with now. You don't have $20, you have $50 to work with. So these types of expenses, your back bar, especially your color, are so expensive that it needs to be separate. And it's just a big part of our business now. So it's really important to have that.
And especially now that I'm not in the salon all the time, when I do go to purchase color for a model, I'll walk in there thinking I'm going to spend $30 and my total is always over 100. And I'm getting just what I need for that model. It's not like I'm restocking a shelf and I'm like, oh my gosh, how are these hairdressers not raising their prices? Because post COVID and post pandemic and all that time being closed, then opening up and having gloves be so expensive and foil be so, like, everything has gone up, and especially color. It used to be, 10 years ago, I would get a letter from whatever color line I was with. I would get an annual letter and it would be, thank you for your support this year. And due to rising costs overseas with production and tubes and this whole big song and dance, basically you're paying more for your color. It used to happen once a year. Now I feel like it happens once a month. It seems like every time I turn around, it's another 50 cents for a tube of color.
And that won't stop because our whole supply chain doesn't have usage-based information. So that means if they can't meet the supply and demand, when things are trending or spiky, they don't have it there, the price will just go up. And we are in a trend-based business. So it's really important to make sure that we do cover those things. We make sure that those things are being handled. But no, I find actually the inflation of, I don't think it's going to slow down for a while. And I think the best fighting chance you have is just cash is king. Make sure you are getting the cash for whatever. Every time a tube is cracked, it's paid for, and there's money to replenish it. If you can get in that habit, you will see the cash flow in the business. It's really important. I know a lot of people do talk about it as like waste. I'm not wasting and stuff. Waste is a big comment that I get lots of times too. And our old systems, when we scrape the buckets and we would do these things, the big question I'd always ask a salon is, if I could tell you what the waste number is, what would you do with that number?
Right.
And so there's only two things you can do with a waste number. You either charge your client more, or take it from your staff. Because the business can't just keep taking on waste, right?
Right.
And so when I get people that kind of fight me on the system, which is like, well, I don't want to pass this on to my customer, you don't have an option. You can either pass it on to the customer or take it from your staff. That's your only options. The business can't overall take on this hit of back bar. So it's either going to have to come from your stylist again, which is harder to take from your staff, or passing it on to a customer. Now they're only charging what you're using, but it's a little bit easier to have that conversation. And that, again, once again, if we're just tracking the waste, unfortunately, what happens on the waste side is eventually 1 or 2 months later, you're still not covering the problem, and you're going to have to like increase everyone's prices. And the funny thing is you have an operational problem, you don't have a pricing problem. So sometimes if you just increase your top line, your pricing, you're still not handling the leak in your business, which is your back bar. So if you separate these things and control the variable part of your business with this technology, you cut the emotion, the customer's paying for that, you built the cash flow around that. Then you're having a labor conversation with the labor side of your business. You're not including an operational expense and commissioning it out, maybe not knowing. They're in the right line items to make sure you're never undercutting yourself. But just increasing your labor side, you're now paying higher commissions. You're paying higher taxes. You're paying a lot more on the income side, and so we want to make sure that those things are separate. So I come back to, that's a lot of like business talk, and that's where a lot of people can get lost in that kind of when we're listening to this. But think about it as this: in the last 4 years, we have seen people transform and get this information. But most importantly, this last year alone, we have put $20 million of revenue back in these salons just by doing that. And so you're only one action away from putting this money in your pocket. And the best way to look at it is like, when you do those orders weekly, transfer, you're probably doing them every Monday, which is the time we do it. Sunday, Mondays, when we're doing our orders. If your order every week is $1,500 or $500 or $5,000, that is what you can anticipate in cash flow that would come back from using this type of method. So if you think about it, instead of the back bar being an expense, it's now going to be something that you can bring in revenue instead of an expense, because you're going to only be ordering what you're using, and you're going to be charging for it, and you can see that kind of flip. So if you are like every single salon, and just like we were, if you're struggling, this is the easiest way to get that cash flow in your business, to start turning it around on itself and make sure nothing is leaving unpaid for.
Wow. I can see why you won that contest. You make everything sound so much more simple.
Well, I find like, I don't want anyone to be overwhelmed. And it's like, it's going to be fine. And we're going to be there to help you. And I was just like you. I have been a solo proprietor, and I've also been a salon owner, a very big salon. My salon, again, huge salon. But what I know is it can feel very overwhelming, and it may feel like you're doing something, like questioning what you're currently doing, but just know that the help is just on the other side, and it's just taking one step forward. And there is nothing wrong with taking time, because good things take time. So sometimes it might be something that you want to start a little bit and then get there, but a good thing takes time. So that's why we don't lock you into contracts. You can cancel anytime you want. You can try it. When you're ready for it, we know that it'll be great. And so we don't ever lock anybody in because we know it'll just change when you're ready for that change.
Amazing. That's really awesome. So I know that everyone listening, whether they're on their treadmill or in the back room at the salon or wherever they're listening to this, they're going to want to know more and how they can get started and how much is it and all of the questions that are going to be flying around in their head. So how can they find out more?
Amazing. Well, first of all, I've got a little goodie for you. So we do have a coupon that will probably be in the notes later here, but it is ECS10. That is going to give you 10% off a bundle. Now, the easiest, simplest way is go to the website, salonscale.com. All the information's there. And when you go to sign up, all the pricing, all the information's there. But just remember, there is a extra savings there for you for listening to this podcast today.
Thank you. That is so very generous. So ECS stands for Expert Color Solutions. So she made that code just for us and my listeners. So please take advantage of that and get started with measuring and earning more and profiting more, because that's what we're all there to do, to create a nice life for ourselves and work smarter, not harder. So I love this tool. I love chatting with you, Alicia, about this tool. You are certainly a gift to our industry, and we're so blessed that you had this moment of clarity and brought this product to market. So thank you so much for this time and for explaining it so well. And I hope that people will reach out and find out more. I know I will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.